My boy Jeffrey is coming back. Hello everybody, this is Joey, and on Maniac for Bricks More, in case you don't know, we do behind the scenes stuff, things that take out of the flow of the regular main channels that I run, such as Maniac for Bricks and Maniac for Toys and Games. Recently, the name changed after a long time of being Joe the Maniac, and then before that, Vampire 9. I've mentioned that before. So, this video is simply just my reaction and prediction of Jeffrey's Toy Box, the potential return of ToysRUs as a toy seller and business. Now, before I get into the details, I do want to mention that I only received this information from a link that was shared with me on Instagram. This is from comicbook.com. It is a secondhand source, but it does mention some firsthand information from representatives of ToysRUs. You can find that link in the description below if you want to read more about it yourself. That is where I'm basing my opinions and reactions. So even though it's limited information right now, I'm sure more will come along the way. I don't have any answers for this, but just kind of reacting to it. Especially because I am a big fan of ToysRUs. I have been for a long time, since I was a kid. I've wanted to make a documentary, per se, of my experiences with it, and give it some closure after it ended in June of 2018, even though it may be coming back. And I didn't actually make that documentary because, well, I still want to, don't get me wrong, but I didn't make it yet because some of the footage is missing. And there's a lot of footage that I took with this across multiple toy stores and across the headquarters, a few times visiting there. Not necessarily to show the ins and outs of everything, but just to have a visual in the background of the information I was providing. There's also information that I need to gather from here at home that I just haven't found yet, but that will be for another time. I'd also like to mention that I do not have marketing experience. I have never worked in marketing or a major business profession before. I have had retail experience, but it's only as dated as this past Friday. I've only recently become a cashier supervisor at a Lego pop-up store. So I can't really speak about it that much as far as the business angle of it. I'm mostly speaking from the consumer angle. So, ToysRUs is coming back. Maybe. A short time ago, there was an announcement that ToysRUs canceled an auction that they had for selling off their independent properties, and this had the potential of them coming back, since they might use them again. Then, I received word today, as of recording this video, that ToysRUs will come back as a smaller store within a store, as it was quoted from the article, called Jeffrey's Toy Box. And according to the article, there were different brands that were listed, but they were all in-house brands. There was nothing mentioned about brands like Lego or Hot Wheels, owned by Mattel and sort of things. So this had me thinking as to how ToysRUs would come back. And this is what I'm coming up with, my opinion on it, just from what I'm noticing and what I can best compare this to. In my opinion, ToysRUs is planning to be a small-time toy seller. Like a business that will generate the products the same as they've done before, but not have all the other outside properties. So, them having a store within a store is probably just a safe way of saying they'll have shelf space, just like you'll have a Lego shelf or a Lego aisle in a Target or a Walmart. I don't believe that they're actually having an established retailer inside of a larger retailer. That doesn't make much sense. So, how would that work? Well, the best way I can compare it, in my mind, is the way that Sega works as a business now compared to when they used to be a video game hardware developer as well as a software developer. Back in the day, they were head and head with Nintendo when it came to video game sales before the arrival of Sony and with the absence of Atari. Atari would still make games for some time, but they no longer had systems the way that they used to. And Sega actually fell within the same path of that. At some point, they did not have great sales. The Dreamcast was the last Sega home console that was created by them, but they still make games after that point, and they still do up to this day. For example, Sonic Mania is a Sega game. It is developed by them, but it is not sold primarily by them. You can find it on a Nintendo Switch or a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One. They are licensing the game out to a company that still creates hardware so that it can be played and purchased. This is the angle that I imagine Toys R Us is going in. They are going to use some of their in-house properties to make products and sell them to stores. They're not necessarily going to set up a store themselves, because that would be like having the hardware for the video games. Now, I did see only a handful of names on the list of properties included, but one that I immediately recognized was Imaginarium. I've known for a long time that Imaginarium is an in-house Toys R Us property, and I even have Imaginarium things such as Cosmo, the dog mascot, as a plush. I remember when I went to the Toys R Us headquarters in June of 2018, I even saw Imaginarium products there. Not necessarily merchandise that would be regularly available, more like employee gifts. For example, they had a couple polo shirts that had Imaginarium logos on them. And recently I went to Halloween City, Toy City, which is occupying where some of the Toys R Us stores used to be. The one that I went to in Woodbridge actually had some remnants of Toys R Us in there. They didn't completely paint over every wall of it. And among the things they had in there on some of the walls were I Want to Be a Toys R Us Kid. They had Jeffrey the Giraffe, almost an entire section of the wall just for him. And along the ceilings, they had a couple things that would hang down. There'd be a large ring, kind of giving the idea of, here's an area where you can find these products. And one of those areas had a label of Imaginarium. Sorry, I don't know why I mispronounced it there. So what I'm trying to get to is Jeffrey's Toy Box won't be a toy store, in my opinion. Or in my prediction, I should say. I would be okay with that. I would be okay with it just being a way of selling toys through a larger retail store. And I think that could work for them. I do think it's a bit of a rush to get it ready by November, because that is the tentative date for it, in order to get it out before the holiday season. I mean, Toys R Us was a major place to go to during the holidays, and also was a big contributor to the toy drives that occurred around that time of year. So it may be difficult, but if it happens, I'll be happy to check it out. And if it doesn't, I'm not still crying the blues. I've been able to move on since then. I have found other ways of getting to the products that I normally would find at Toys R Us, and it is nice to have some Toys R Us stuff here and there, iconography and such, like the Jeffrey the Giraffe that I showed in the beginning of the video. But now I'm okay with leaving it as a fond handful of memories. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Read the article down below and let me know your comments or your predictions on this matter. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it, and I'll talk to you at another time.